The new executive editor of the Providence Journal is my guest tonight. Looking forward to that.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
It's always terrific when media types talk amongst themselves. I guess this is going to be a fake conversation all the way around. It's great to have you aboard, folks. Thank you for tuning in on this gorgeous pre-summer. It's not summer yet, right? We're a week away. Gorgeous day. Of course, you know, when the humidity goes away, the pollen comes in. For those of us who are still suffering, if I go like this, don't worry about it. It's a constant battle. You buy a black car, you see the green pollen. That's your indication that you're challenged. But anyway, enough of that. Let's go to the rundown. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a lot of issues here because I'm looking forward to talking with Alan Rosenberg at length about stuff, read the Providence Journal, and media in general. This is unspeakable. I mean, I'm not going to be able to say anything deep about this. A headline here from earlier today, this gentleman obviously is no longer in custody, unless you think about the good Lord and what he's doing with him. It's just unspeakable. If this is a political motivation, there is no motivation that legitimizes this. There are no words that actually match the heinous nature of this. The president did well to speak to it earlier today.
We may have our differences, but we do well in times like these to remember that everyone who serves in our nation's capital is here because, above all, they love our country. We can all agree that we are blessed to be Americans, that our children deserve to grow up in a nation of safety and peace, and that we are strongest when we are unified.
All right, words well chosen by the president. Everybody says all the right things because the nature of this behavior is just so out of our ability to comprehend that it is unifying in a sense, but unifying against the absurd. We'll talk more about the nature of this as we get more information on it. Of course, it buries, in a lot of ways, some of the headlines from yesterday. And Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, at the Intel hearing with the Senate, a headline here, I mean, he got his back up a little bit. He feels like he's been jammed up unnecessarily by innuendo.
I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. I recuse myself from any investigation into the campaign for president, but I did not recuse myself from defending my honor against scurrilous and false allegations.
You know, that's the lesser of the reason that the Attorney General was there. You know, what meeting he may have had with the Russian ambassador that he can or cannot remember, in addition to what he said when he was interviewing, is almost irrelevant to the core issues, which are what was his role in canning Jim Comey, right? And what is his overall engagement in this whole conversation? That he actually said yesterday that he, on his own, recused himself from the Russian investigation simply by not doing anything in his office is just one of the silliest things I've ever heard anybody say in that kind of official capacity. And then when pressed on questions about conversations with the president, he forecasted executive privilege for the president and kept his mouth shut. You know, if every administrator that gets called to a hearing suggests that, you know, there might be somewhere down the line an executive privilege exercise, nothing would get done in Congress. So kind of disappointing. No smoking guns, of course, nobody nailed. The beat goes on, and it will go on slowly during this investigation, no doubt. All right, coming back home, it becomes budget week here as we get near the deadline tomorrow. I guess the big numbers are let out, and you go, yawn, because I say budget, you turn off the show. Don't turn off the show. Don't. Unfortunately, the budget, it's the only way we can say it. We can say it's spending plan. We can say, you know, big money. We can say all your taxpayer dollars down the toilet. We can do anything you want to entertain you. But the truth of the matter is it's called the budget. And it's still in negotiation, reportedly, if you look at some of the stories, Journal and others. What is interesting here is that there's no doubt the car tax plan will go as scheduled. The governor's still holding on to some form of the 2 years of free college tuition. It's not going to end up in any way, shape, or form that she proposed it, there's no doubt. She may get a little bit of it, and I'm interested to see what she gets. And then the Republicans come out with a 4-point plan, which is kind of interesting. They want a Solicitor General, and they want to eliminate some, I think, items in the ongoing behavior of the budget that could be eliminated. But I do not understand why the state Republicans think that they're actually being constructive when they introduce new concepts 48 hours before the budget is released. This is this. They have a little bit of a disorder, the Republicans in the state. If they actually wanted to affect change, introduce these concepts in February, and then start fighting for them, instead of offering what is simply token opposition to the budget 2 days in front of it. It's kind of like, we're ineffective. We'll billboard that we're ineffective. We'll throw out some ideas that never will see the light of day, and then we'll walk away patting ourselves on the back for being smart and ineffective. I mean, I've asked them this every year. It's almost like they're cramming for an exam 2 days in front of the budget. Say, oh, we have some other ideas. God, it's just stupid. Plain old stupid. Sorry. You want a two-party system in this state? Well, let's actually force the Republicans to behave like they actually matter. All right, front page. Any front page, because we're talking about the Providence Journal today. But this is today's front page. And I think you've seen a new creative approach by the Providence Journal. Obviously, the artwork is something that we've seen change over time. But there's no doubt that there's been a little bit more, I'd say, provocative, compelling, creative headlining in the Providence Journal, and I have no quarrel with it. Some people do, but there's always somebody to complain about something. Alan Rosenberg is the new executive editor, but it's not new to the Journal. I mean, you've seen your 4 decades of this business evolving. Congratulations on your gig, and welcome.
Thank you.
New look from the Journal, yes?
Yes. Our previous executive editor, Dave Butler, came to us a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, from the San Jose Mercury News, and he brought with him his own design style book. And he didn't
like it.
Yeah, I do too. He didn't like what we were doing, and he wanted us to be bolder. He wanted us to have fewer stories on the front page and to play them with impact. And so that's what we're doing. We're looking for, not every day, because it can get old to have 6-column headlines every day. But when a story is important, when it's crucial, when you have Sessions testifying, last week when you had Comey testifying, and the next day you had Trump's response, when you've got momentous events happening in this country, as we have had at a rapid pace over the last several months, then the newspaper should reflect that, not just in the words that it uses, but in the way that it looks.
Okay, so it's not just creative artwork. There's a purposefulness to this. And now that you say that, to be honest with you, I never really computed that it had been a story count reduction on the front page. But now that I think about it, yes, a lot of your feature work, a lot of the front page top story stuff, a little bit more profound, and then a couple of key other elements down at the bottom. That's kind of like the new format, right?
Right.
Is there research that backs up that people react to that? Or is it just editorial taste?
I think it's mostly editorial taste, and different editors will have different tastes. I think the New Bedford Standard Times just does front page what we call reefers. All they do is have a picture and a headline and turn to page such and such. They don't start any stories there. That's what their editor likes. And I know that there's been research done on that, and it doesn't affect anything.
It doesn't.
Because the paper in Pittsburgh several years ago tried printing half of its editions with a traditional layout and half with just the front page headline and turn to line, and neither one sold better than the other. So it really depends on the taste of the editor, and I think Dave's taste in this was terrific.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we could talk all night about the changes in media, period, but specifically in the newspaper business. With all the online reading now, obviously, that layout matters much less. Although I am a fan of the e-edition, read it every single day, so that digitally I can look at the newspaper the way the newspaper is presented, and flipping digitally is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Yes, it
you know,
is.
when we used to do this, you know, it's a whole different story.
Right.
But less and less people are doing this, right?
Correct. Correct.
How many less and less?
How many less?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the paper's actual old-fashioned reader usage is obviously diminishing because the entire industry is going digital, but you still have tens of thousands of people that are reading it like this.
Oh, sure,
right?
yeah. We've got well over 50,000 on a daily basis, and on Sundays it's about 70,000.
You see a day when you don't put them out in the stand anymore?
You know, I don't think anybody really knows the ultimate answer to that question. There are some places where they've gone to 3 days a week. I don't think anybody in those markets has been terribly happy with that solution. It hasn't worked really well for them, and in some places it's just invited another paper to come in and compete where there never was competition, New Orleans being a prime example of that. So I think publishers are pretty wary of getting rid of the newspaper as a newspaper, whether in 20 years or 30 years or even 10 years, I don't know, whether something changes fundamentally to make that happen. If somebody tells you today that they know the answer to that, I think they're lying.
All right. More with the executive editor of the Providence Journal in just a moment, but let me just remind you that if you're looking to sophisticate your banking approach, there's no better way than Navigant Credit Union's Card Valet. Literally on your phone, you can check every aspect of every account and do just about anything that you'd ever want to do when it comes to managing all of your money. It's just one app away and a pretty easy one to operate. Check out navigantcu.org and enjoy life's journey with Navigant, member NCUA. Be right back.
Outlets like CNN and MSNBC are fake news. Fake news.
Yeah, of course, you always throw the New York Times, the Washington Post in there. I'm sure if he was oriented to it, the Providence Journal would make that cut as well. You wrote an interesting piece on fake news. I thought it was pretty much on point.
Thank you.
Your take is?
My take is that the term fake news, which was originally coined to describe fake news, news that was made up, stories that largely were created by Macedonian teenagers sitting in their homes in Eastern Europe, hoping to make a few bucks by harvesting some clicks with outrageous tales like the pizza shop in Washington, D.C., where Hillary Clinton was allegedly running a child sex ring out of a pizza shop. She was a pretty busy woman, but she apparently had time to do this, if you believe this. A term that was coined to describe this kind of outlandish, outrageous thing. As you saw, the president and his supporters picked it up and turned it on legitimate mainstream news media. I know that's a dirty word for some people, mainstream. But they've used it to delegitimize real journalism done by real journalists who care deeply about the truth. And I find that troublesome because I find that coming to me as the editor of the Journal, people who say, you are fake news. They're picking up obviously on what they've heard, but I don't think they really understand that term.
Of course, Donald Trump has stumped us with all sorts of his thought process, and we could spend all night talking about it as well. I'm no fan. I think most of the viewers understand that. But you know what he's done strategically, I think, is not so smart, and it's a transparent mistake in that he's awakened the journalistic community to having to fend for itself. And in some ways, you know, when the spotlight is drawn on you, it has to make you better. And so I think if he thought that the mainstream news organizations or the cable business specifically would give up or fall down or fold over the pressure, it's been anything but, right?
Well,
and he feeds it on a perpetual basis, blames the coverage, and people say, why can't you get off Trump when every day he feeds the beast?
There is always something new to say about President Trump because he does generate news far more than any president I can remember.
And some of your headlines have been pretty profound when it comes to Trump. There's been some edgy pushback on the president in your paper, correct?
Well, we're trying to get to the truth. Whether that truth is that worldwide people gathered in cities by the thousands and thousands the day after his inauguration to protest, that's unprecedented after an American election. And we treated it accordingly as something that was unprecedented. Or trying to distill what's going on in this extraordinary series of hearings that we've been having over the Russia probe, where you have a former FBI director coming before the Senate and calling the president a liar. And then you have the sitting attorney general coming and saying, I'm not stonewalling, I didn't collude. This is extraordinary. And so we're trying to make sure that our headlines reflect just how extraordinary that is.
I always tell people it's a mistake to just read headlines. I think you concur, right? Because generally they're written by somebody who doesn't write the story. It's really important not to live on headlines.
That's true. It's important not to live on the headlines, and it's important to understand that not everything can be filtered through your perspective, whoever you are. After our coverage of Comey last week, I heard from a number of people, all of whom had a different thing that should have been the headline, rather than Comey, Trump lied. They really hated that headline. But it accurately reflected what Comey had to say. Further in the story, the points that they were talking about were made. They really didn't care whether those things were in the story. They wanted it to be the big headline.
It was interesting, your recent piece on reader feedback. A lot of common ground, by the way. You know, anybody that's reporting objective by goal. By the way, objectivity is a goal, not a necessary reality. We could have a big conversation about objective journalism. But anytime that you're
it's certainly our goal.
It's your goal.
And you know,
not always accomplished. It's the human condition.
Well, we're all human beings, and we filter it through our experience. We filter it through our news judgment. Where I take exception with some of the people who write, and I should say that I've gotten a number of supportive emails, and it's easy to overlook them when we're talking about the ones that are not supportive. The ones that I take exception to feel that not just I, but every journalist has an agenda. One said you all went to the same liberal journalism school. Like, that must have been a pretty big journalism school. You know, we got one today after this horrific shooting in Virginia, saying, I see that your pretense to objectivity is a sham, because you have this huge play on Sessions on your front page, and there's nothing about the shooting of the congressman, and which of course took place.
Is a key issue there.
Which took place hours after our paper was in people's driveways. Right. But that's the lens and the mindset.
And the digital world has allowed the newspapers actually to catch up on current events in real time, whereas a decade ago you guys were jammed up. You'd be the last on a day like today. You'd be the last one in. Now you can be one of the first ones in on the digital side, which helps, no doubt. I want to talk about the nature of the Providence Journal's local coverage when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back with Alan Rosenberg, the executive editor of the paper. Look, the Journal has been challenged. I mean, all media is challenged right now with the diversification of media and the growth of digital and not figuring out how to make money on the digital side. I know the Journal does, I know we do, but it's still a puzzle in a lot of ways. So resources get thinned out a little bit, and the challenges come with, on the street. The Providence Journal used to be, a reporter in every doggone town council, and it's just not there anymore. Yet you wrote something the other day about trying to refocus on that local coverage. What's your goal and what's the reality?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that we still have the largest news gathering staff in southeastern New England. Sure. Reporters, sports writers, features writers, photographers who do video as well, and our reporters who are all doing video. We still have the largest number of feet on the street.
I bet some of the old veterans don't like that too much.
You know, surprisingly, some of them find it quite a lot of fun.
They do?
Yeah, and Wayne Miller has done some terrific video, and Mark Patinkin, just to name a couple of them.
A couple of old war horses, staples of the paper, no doubt.
A couple of excellent veteran reporters, is the way I would put it.
Look, you know, Patinkin is a must-read for a yuck, and then some. He's getting deeper lately, even on some of the political stuff. And nobody does a better expose or in-depth conversation than Wayne Miller, as far as I'm concerned. He's a terrific talent, absolutely terrific. But talk to me about the day-to-day stuff and the stuff that seems that all media is missing underneath the local town council's nose, you know?
Right. So, given that we have had some staff reductions over the years, it is a challenge to get into all the communities. And you're right. When I got to the Journal, we had a big network of bureaus that aren't there anymore. But what we still have are some very terrific, talented reporters. And so we've made sure, as we have reorganized, that we have brought back our focus on local news. So we have John Hill covering Cranston. John Hill lives in Cranston, so he knows Cranston. He's a veteran reporter who does a great job. Jennifer Bogdan, who had been up at the State House, we brought her down to cover Providence City Hall. She's been a resident of Providence. I think she lives just over the line in Oak Hill now.
And you flipped Kathy Gregg back to the State House.
And sent Kathy Gregg back to the State House.
Yeah.
Kathy, I think, is unparalleled in her ability to cover the State House. She did a terrific job covering
why did they flip her out?
You know, at the beginning of this year, the biggest story facing not just Rhode Island but the whole country was the Trump transition and what effects it was going to have in Rhode Island. And we wanted Kathy, who really understands government, to have a chance to dig into those. And she did a number of great front page stories. After we had our recent reorganization, we thought, you know, it's time. We've seen the early effects of Trump. It's time to get Kathy back to the State House. We can put Jen in Providence. We can put Patrick Anderson on business and also on the northern part of the state. We've got Danita Naylor, who lives in South County, covering South County for us. And we've got Alex Kuffner, who lives in the East Bay, covering the East Bay for us, as well as the environmental stories that he does so wonderfully.
Well,
so
good roster. I mean, it's off the top of your head. I appreciate the lineup. Who bats fourth?
It's Anthony Rizzo every time.
Now let's not forget what I think has been a stalwart sports team over there.
Right.
You know, do you sell a Saturday paper without Billy Reynolds? Ruin the day that he retires,
well,
right?
At some point we'll have to find out, but I hope it's no time soon.
Yeah.
That's my must-read in the Saturday paper is Bills for What It's Worth column. It's great.
Yes. You bet, Bunky. No doubt about that. Give me 30 seconds on the future of the Journal and where you think things are going, real quick.
We're focusing on digital. We want to make sure that we've got the video that people expect when they come to our website. We want to make sure that we're first and we're accurate and we're getting the stories the best way for the web, and then we're coming around to make those stories sing for the newspaper. And so it's a dual mission to cover Rhode Island for the web, for the newspaper, in a way that is going to make people want to buy.
Listen, first meeting, I hope it's one of many. It's good to have some discourse.
My pleasure.
We have common goals for the community.
Thanks for inviting me.
Congratulations on your new gig. Final word and we come back. Stay with us. What am I doing tomorrow?
Bill Lynch.
Bill Lynch. Used to be the Democratic Party chairman, now is just the spokes guy, but he does the same stuff, rabble-rousing and beating up on Link Chafee, and I'm sure he will do that tomorrow. Is that tomorrow? Good, Lex. Appreciate that. See you.